Professor Alicor Panao. Professor Alicor Panao is from University of the Philippines, Diliman, the Philippines. This afternoon, he would like to share his perspective on Taiwan. I would like to ask you some questions. First of all, the question is related about your staying in Kaohsiung. So the first question is, you have been staying here in Kaohsiung for almost 1 year now. How do you feel about living in Kaohsiung?
Okay. When I first applied for a fellowship, actually Kaohsiung wasn't my first choice, but I think it wasn't a mistake after all. Kaohsiung, I think, is so underrated in so many ways. I think, this is just a personal opinion, Kaohsiung actually is, in my opinion, more vibrant and probably richer than Taipei as a tourist destination. I mean, Taipei is comfortable, but so is Kaohsiung. And surprisingly, yes, I found Kaohsiung very accessible. I had no difficulty interacting with people here, even though I cannot speak Chinese. The housing and accommodation here is very cheap, and everything is so accessible. At least from where I live, there are malls nearby, hospitals, as well as excellent jogging routes for me whenever I feel like running.
Do you have a chance to visit cities in Taiwan?
Yes, I did. I have gone to a couple of them. Of course, Taipei, New Taipei City, as well as Taichung. But I think for me, well, probably, again, this is just my opinion, I think Kaohsiung is one of the most outstanding.
Do you have some difficulties in traveling in Taiwan?
Well, actually, prior to the pandemic, everything was okay. I mean, I have no issues traveling to Taiwan prior to the COVID pandemic. But again, because COVID took place, we had to satisfy certain quarantine and testing protocols. Before it was rather simple.
You have visited Taipei and other cities. Could you share us with about your visit to other cities?
In New Taipei City, I think it was historically it was an old trading port where Spaniards and Dutch established communities, but all of it, of course, are gone now. What remains are just vestiges, meaning ruins. And I've gone to former Japanese mining communities as well in Keelung.
What is your favorite part of Kaohsiung or Taiwan?
Kaohsiung, well, I think I actually like the banana pier area. I also like that spot where the martyr shrine sits. Have you been to the martyr shrine here in Kaohsiung?
Yes.
Yes, it's actually about 700 meters from the campus. Yes.
Thank you. Now my question is related about democracy in Taiwan, Professor. The Economist Intelligence Unit released the 2019 edition of its annual democracy index on Wednesday, January 22. The index categorized Taiwan as a flawed democracy and put it in the 5th place in Asia behind New Zealand, Australia, South Korea, and Japan. What do you think about that?
Okay, first off, we have to understand that any index, like the EUI in this case, is based on some measures which they compiled and summarized into a single measure. Now there's a problem when we use indices. In particular, for example, we have to check the methodology as well as how they came about with operationalization, meaning how they actually measured those indices. Now, in the case of Taiwan, based on this index, is a flawed democracy. But if you look at the report, actually Taiwan is fit.
Right.
Yes. Of countries being the most democratic in Asia and Australia. The Philippines, which is known as a democracy, one of the first democracies in Asia, is ranked 9th in that list. Its score is 6.64. Does that mean that democracy in Taiwan is bad? No, not necessarily. Again, we have to be aware of the methodology and the rankings and what these numbers really imply with respect to how democracy should be defined. One other issue with that index is that most of the category, or rather criteria used, are based on Western notion of democracy. In fact, if you examine the report, most of the countries that appear to be functional democracies are actually Western democracies. It's quite possible, though, and this is a theoretical argument, that you can achieve a certain type or typology of democracy.
And while you are staying in Taiwan, do you feel that Taiwan deserves for that ranking?
I didn't see Taiwan. Well, okay, let's put it this way. I don't think Taiwan has any issue with respect to democracy. In fact, I think Taiwan is very democratic, very open. I mean, information is readily available. I don't think people are repressed or their views are suppressed in any way. There's a free press as well. I don't think you'd be outlawed if you go out and protest. So for me, based on my experience here, I think Taiwan is a very functional and working democracy.
So the last question is about your thought and suggestion for faculty member here or student here in IPS.
Okay, the faculty members I met as a fellow are generally very accommodating. They are nice. They are also very accomplished. Many of them have really good research tracks, very good research output. They are also very prolific in terms of their publications. I don't know if we share the same opinion, but that is my impression. In other words, students here are really capable of doing quantitative research. And also, although, of course, you notice though that some students are not really that vocal about their views, especially in class. That doesn't mean though that they are not smart. It's just that I think they are shy or probably have second thoughts about expressing themselves. I probably have a different experience if I can actually speak Chinese and would be able to interact with them in their native language.
Thank you, Professor.